Any last words? No? He's a bitch. Like Dunkin' Donuts, they get people running like diarrhea while they humming when they come in kinda shitty. There's no one I'm at a peer. They say, how can I be so smart? Maybe it's because I'm picking up words like a toddler who talks to parents. And my inventory is infinite ire. I've been like that since my dad and I went apart so nobody could start suddenly admiring me before a fight in his apartment. And then it got kinda heated like an electric blanket. Maybe his alcoholism made it sank. I ain't gone under yet. Maybe, speaking of under, I ain't gotta go under a skirt to get bunder. But this other day I went up to a tyrant, firing pin clipped to his head as he screamed, last words are made of a martyr. Last words? What's his last words? Last words? What's your last words? Last words? What's his last words? Last words? What's your last words? What's the last thing to come to your mind for a murder you? The last words before you die. I tell you what he said. No, it wasn't me. I didn't take no cash. Why'd it come to this? Let's just mash. Take 10 mil out the stash. It didn't have to be like this. Now it's just Rick Grimes versus Shane Walsh in the field. Tears were welling in his eyes. We tracked down the fake who set him up by his IP. Roger Nicholson looking like he needed an ID. Couldn't get an ID out the meadow. Put his ass down and made a suicide note. Put him in the news so he could say I showed him the ropes. Showed him a reef knot while his body were looking like some dot to dot. When you saw last words you thought they were mine, but it would just be fuck you, could step out of line and I ain't benign no more. So I made it horrorcore. They didn't like my album so I flipped it like a light switch. But what would be yours if it happened to you? Last words? What's his last words? Last words? What's your last words? Last words? What's his last words? Last words? What's your last words? What's the last thing to come to your mind before I murder you? Last words before you die. Put a knife in the mic, the producer left, now I'm in the studio alone, so they don't know I murdered more than a rhyme. Only award you get is death certificate. Fucking me is how you get caught in crossfire like Pat Tillman, and a strike like Norma Ray. I ain't caught a body yet, but still man, there's no one I wouldn't buy. You're a mortician, ain't no optician, but how come there's retina missing? Got away with murder, cause he died of a coronary when he saw the blade. Look up that autopsy, head smashed with a frying pan, C1 vertebrae fusion, so there's no confusion if it can't be infused with Mother Teresa, causing more contusions. I know this isn't a colloquism. They call me a price tag with how I come off. I'm obstreperous, so it's like Monty putting a hacksaw on the saber tiger's mouth horizontally. So yeah, there's a problem. I thought Tom Abasky was down with me, but he used me for a laugh. I started choking him out, uttered his last words. Cause of death, decimation. Last words, headline, murder, drown, and disemboweled. Damn. Last words, what's his last words? Last words, what's your last words? Last words, what's his last words? Last words, what's your last words? What's the last thing to come to your mind for a murder you? One more time. Last words, what's his last words? Last words, what's your last words? Last words, what's his last words? Last words, what's your last words? What's the last thing to come to your mind for a murder you?